You're not going to believe what happened in my quiet neighborhood the other day. I came home from work ready to relax when I noticed something strange on the side of my fence. Bright red spray paint. Still fresh, dripping down like someone had just finished. At first, I thought it was some random kid messing around. But then, my security camera showed the real story. And that's when things got interesting. Turns out it was Karen's son. Yeah, that Karen. The one who's always complaining about everyone else's lawn, noise, trash cans, you name it. Her kid thought it'd be funny to tag my fence with some graffiti. But here's the thing. What he didn't know was that my fence backs right up to a government installation. Not just any building, a federal drone tower hidden behind that fence, camouflaged to blend in with the neighborhood. And that spray paint. It didn't just hit my fence. It marked part of the tower, too. Now I've got federal agents knocking on my door, asking questions, reviewing footage, and treating this like some kind of potential threat. Karen, of course, is in complete denial. She says her sweet boy would never do something like that, even with the video proof. And the craziest part, the agents aren't just blaming the kid, they're saying I might be responsible if I don't cooperate. This whole thing spun out of control so fast. And what started as a simple act of vandalism has now turned into a full-blown federal investigation. I tried to keep things calm, but what happened next with Karen and the authorities pushed everything over the edge. You won't believe how far she went to cover it up. Stick around, because it only gets wilder from here. So, here's where things really started to spiral. After the agents left that day, I reviewed the footage again, just to make sure I hadn't missed anything. The video clearly showed Karen's son, hoodie up, holding a black spray can and tagging the fence. What stood out, though, was how he kept looking over his shoulder, almost like someone was watching him, or maybe even helping. That's when it hit me. This probably wasn't his first time doing something like this. I talked to a few neighbors, and sure enough, they'd seen random graffiti showing up around the block over the last few weeks. Mailboxes, utility boxes, even one neighbor's garage door. Nobody thought too much of it, just kids being kids. But tagging a fence that borders a federal drone tower, that takes the situation to a whole other level. And now that the feds were involved, nobody was feeling calm anymore. Karen, though, completely in denial. She actually stormed over to my house the next morning, yelling about how I was harassing her son and trying to frame him with edited footage. I tried to keep it cool, but she wouldn't even look at the video. She just kept repeating the same thing. My son would never do that. But her voice cracked when I mentioned the agents. That's when I started wondering. Did she already know something? The agents came back later that week and started asking more pointed questions. They asked about who lives around the area, if I'd noticed anyone else near the tower at odd hours, and whether Karen or her son had been acting strange. The weird part, they didn't seem surprised when I gave them names. It felt like they were already tracking something much bigger than just a spray paint prank. A few days later, things got even weirder. One of the agents came back alone this time. He wasn't in a suit, just regular clothes, like he was trying not to draw attention. He knocked on my door, real calm, and asked if I had noticed anything unusual at night. I told him about the strange humming I'd been hearing from the drone tower lately, like something powering up or shifting position. He nodded, but didn't say much, just took notes and said, "If you hear it again, record it." Meanwhile, Karen's son had gone totally silent. No more playing outside, no bike in the driveway, nothing. It was like she grounded him more. Maybe she was hiding him. A neighbor 2 doors down, Mrs. Chan, told me she'd seen Karen sneaking out late at night with a trash bag and heading toward the back alley. I didn't think much of it until another neighbor mentioned their Wi-Fi cameras had caught strange movement near the drone tower after midnight. No clear faces, but definitely someone in a hoodie again. I started piecing things together, and that's when another angle opened up. I remembered Karen used to work for a security company before she got fired. Rumors around the neighborhood were that she had access to surveillance systems and may have borrowed a few things when she left. Nobody took it seriously till now. What if this wasn't just her kid being dumb? What if there was something else going on, something she didn't want anyone to find? On top of that, the drone tower started getting fenced off even more, like they were hiding something. Government trucks rolled in at night. No logos, just matte black vehicles with covered plates. This wasn't just about graffiti anymore. It felt like something bigger. Something Karen was tangled up in way deeper than anyone realized. One night around 2 a.m., I woke up to flashing lights through my bedroom window, police lights, but a strange, pulsing white glow coming from the drone tower. I grabbed my phone and started recording from the window, zoomed in as far as I could. There were two figures near the base of the tower, crouched down, and one of them definitely looked like a teenager. The other was taller, moving with purpose, and holding what looked like a tool bag. That's when it hit me. It had to be Karen and her son. The next morning, the spot they'd been in was covered up. A new section of fencing had gone up, and the ground was freshly dug. Whatever they were doing, they didn't want anyone to know. I tried showing the video to the agents, but by the time they got there, all traces were cleaned up. No footprints. No tool marks, nothing. At the same time, Karen's behavior got more paranoid. She started installing security cameras all around her property, even one facing my front door. I'd catch her peeking through her blinds during the day, watching me whenever I stepped outside. It felt like she was waiting for something to happen. Like she knew a clock was ticking. Then, two unmarked SUVs parked on our street and didn't move for hours. A guy in a suit sat inside one of them, not even pretending to be casual. That's when my neighbor, Mr. Brooks, came over and said he'd seen Karen arguing with someone behind the grocery store earlier that week. The guy she was with handed her a small metal case, and she looked terrified. Whatever this was, it wasn't just a tagging incident gone wrong. Something was hidden in or around that drone tower. Something she didn't want the government to find. And now, it felt like the entire neighborhood was being watched, just when I thought things couldn't get any stranger. Another layer to the story unfolded completely out of nowhere. I got a call from an unknown number, no caller ID. Normally, I wouldn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. A calm but serious voice on the other end said, "You're not wrong about the tower, but you're asking too many questions. Watch your step." Then the line went dead. That warning hit hard. It wasn't just some prank call. The voice knew I'd been digging. I checked all my footage, locked everything down, and even backed up the drone tower videos to a drive I hid in my garage, just in case. I wasn't about to back off, not now. The next twist. I found out Karen's son wasn't just some bored teen. A former classmate of his who lives a few blocks over told me he was part of an online group kids into hacking, surveillance tech, and encrypted messaging apps. The graffiti he'd been painting, it wasn't just random tagging. It was symbols, almost like codes. The red spray-painted mark on my fence matched others that had appeared near small cell towers across town. That's when it all clicked. This was bigger than our neighborhood. I started wondering, was Karen really trying to protect her son? Or was she part of it from the start? Maybe those federal agents weren't just here because of the drone tower, but because of something these kids had accidentally exposed. And if Karen's kid was tagging encrypted symbols, who was he sending messages to? Or worse, what was he helping uncover? That same night, one of the unmarked SUVs sped off around midnight. Minutes later, the power flickered across the block. Every house except Karen's went dark. That's when I saw her backyard light turn on. and a strange, blinking red light pulsing from inside her shed. Everything seemed to crash together at once. As thunder rolled in the distance, Jeremy stood at the edge of the lake, soaked, breathless, staring down the HOA president, Mrs. Callahan, who now had 2 officers by her side. The boat he'd anchored right in front of her window bobbed steadily, a bright blue thorn in her side. The neighborhood had gathered again, whispering, recording, some smirking, others wide-eyed at the scene unraveling. Mrs. Callahan was yelling about violations, property values, and trespassing, her voice sharp enough to pierce through the wind. But then Jeremy calmly pulled out a folder, a packet of legal documents he had kept hidden until this very moment. With everyone watching, he handed them over to the officers. Inside was a recently signed contract. The land surrounding the lake, previously owned by an absent developer, had just been sold. To him, Jeremy, the very person the HOA had tried so hard to push out now owned the common ground, including the portion by the lake Mrs. Callahan had claimed as her own. The officers looked it over, nodded, and stepped back. Mrs. Callahan's face lost all color. Her loud threats crumbled into quiet disbelief. The neighbors were stunned. Some clapped, some just laughed. Jeremy had outmaneuvered the HOA at their own game, not with more conflict, but with ownership. The restrictions they had tried to enforce no longer applied. He was now the one in control of the lake's access. But just as things started to settle and Jeremy turned to walk away, a voice called out from the back of the crowd. A man none of them recognized stepped forward and revealed he was the son of the original landowner. And apparently, the contract Jeremy signed. It had a loophole. The property was still tied up in a quiet legal battle no one knew about. Twist hit hard. Everything Jeremy thought he'd won might still slip away. The war wasn't over. It had only just changed shape. For a moment, everything froze. Jeremy stared at the man, unsure if this was another trick or yet another HOA stunt. But after a few tense conversations and a couple of phone calls to his lawyer, the truth came out. The legal battle over the land was real, but it was nearly over. The original owner's son had no interest in reclaiming the lakefront. He just wanted to ensure that his family's name wasn't erased without closure. Once Jeremy agreed to install a small memorial plaque by the lake in honor of the original owner, the man backed off, promising not to interfere with the sale. With that final hurdle cleared, peace started to settle in. The HOA had no more leverage. Mrs. Callahan quietly resigned a week later, citing health reasons, though most neighbors knew it was because her influence had collapsed. The new interim HOA board, now made up of friendlier residents, openly apologized to Jeremy and promised a more fair and neighborly approach moving forward. Jeremy kept the boat, not out of spite, but as a symbol. He started offering short rides to kids in the neighborhood and even hosted a lakeside cleanup day, earning the trust of people who once doubted him. That lake, once a point of conflict, turned into a gathering place not fenced off by control, but shared in good faith. In the end, Jeremy didn't win because he fought harder. He won because he stayed calm, stood his ground, and used facts when emotions ran high. The story spread online, drawing in viewers who were tired of HOA horror stories and looking for a satisfying resolution. And for those watching, it became clear, sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's turning conflict into community.